Thank you all for, thank you guys for coming today for the mindful eating workshop. So I feel like mindful eating is a topic that gets pushed around a lot. And it's nice to be able to sit down and do a deeper dive of what that is, and is that what we're actually looking for when it comes to improving health, maintaining a healthy weight, and excelling in athletics, if that is a goal of yours. So how many of you all have done a form of mindful eating or intuitive eating before? Okay, some. Great. Okay. How did that go for you? Not so great. What were some of the challenges with it?
I feel like my life is too chaotic, and then you throw in children and work, and it felt like too much on my plate on top of everything else.
Yeah. So it sounds like a busy schedule, maybe not as much time to check in and slow down and see how the body's feeling that day. Okay. Anyone else try it before? Kind of worked, didn't work. Any success stories? You can go, Rebecca.
I did a workshop at Kripalu in Massachusetts. Do you know the yoga center? I don't know if you're familiar with it, in the Berkshires in Massachusetts.
Okay.
And I did one on health and weight and yoga and all of that. And we learned kind of how to eat food without talking. You had to be in silence. You couldn't talk. You also we tried like tasting an almond, and we had to eat it for like 2 minutes, and then we had to think about it. And I was like, wow, like you really had to engage all of your senses, and it really made me think. And I do think that all the time. So I was so glad that I learned that. And we couldn't talk. Like you had to eat alone. There was silence. And of course you couldn't have your phone or your computer or a book. It was all about just eating for eating and paying attention to eating. So it was very helpful.
Yeah. And I really love that exercise where you pick one food and just like slow down and fully experience it. Cause like Brittany mentioned, like when we're rushing from day to day, it can be challenging to actually like sit down and like enjoy the meal, or like remember what you ate, and not like get through your plate and be like, who did all my food? So I think that's a really valuable exercise to do on a regular basis. And sometimes I will do that with individuals, but I wanted to kind of get back to like utilizing some meditative techniques and listening to the body, and identifying those hunger and satiety cues again. And I think regardless of where you are in your journey, it's just helpful to brush back up on it and be like, all right, body, how's it going today? What's going on in there? And get in tune with it. So there's two different terminologies that are typically thrown around. You have mindful eating, which is that being present, body awareness, checking in with your hunger and satiety cues, and being a detective, and kind of starting to uncover more of the why behind what you're eating and what's driving you to eat. So sometimes these cues can be boredom, hunger, maybe you actually need a break during the day. Maybe you're dehydrated and are misconstruing signals for hunger. Maybe you're just in a mood, in a funk, and you need something to kind of quell it, and you're using food to help quell that emotion. Or you could be tired and you just need to take a nap. So having an awareness of that is really important. And so intuitive eating is the second terminology. And so that's where you use those mindfulness techniques and start to say, okay, like here's what's coming in and here's what my body's saying. What are we going to do with it? And so it's interpreting those cues and saying, okay, I really want a cheeseburger right now. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I haven't really eaten much that day. So it's understanding, okay, my hunger is pretty high, haven't really fueled the body very much, and I'm looking for a high calorie source that's going to give me quick energy. And so once you have that understanding, it's kind of like when you're able to name an emotion, like, oh, that's what stress feels like. It makes it more manageable, and you're able to be like, all right, like I can actually like kind of work through this and start to understand what a trigger might be or what a cause might be behind it and how to best treat it. So if you are bored or you do need to take a break, like you're able to do that. Sometimes it's like, okay, I know that around 3 o'clock, like I'm usually pretty dehydrated, been on Zoom calls all day or been running around, running errands, like whatever it is, having more understanding there. So also, who is this kind of eating strategy for? So when we think about who the best intuitive eaters are, who do you think they might be? Who's really good at listening to their hunger cues and satiety cues? I feel like Rebecca knows.
Babies.
Babies, yes. Do you remember why?
I mean, if they're hungry, they cry and they need to eat.
Yeah.
If they're full, they don't, they back off. They back off from whatever, the bottle, the nipple, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they're pretty good, and they don't mind if they need to eat at 3 a.m. in the morning. They're gonna go do what they need to do. But I think it's also beautiful is that like babies don't feel a lot of guilt around food. So there's a lot of psychology that can go into the foods that we're consuming. And if you've been following a diet program and you've built up all this red tape, it can be hard to eat food and be at peace with it. So learning to be a detective, understand what your food rules might be, kind of letting go of those and starting to see all food is equal, and listening to what your cravings are, and what makes your body feel good both right after and a little bit further along in the day or in the week, and see how that makes you feel, and trying to take that personal judgment out of it and just being a detective, being curious with your mindset there. So another one of the big ones is being able to honor your hunger and satiety cues. So a lot of this education is actually based off of a book called Intuitive Eating by Evelyn Triol and Elise Reich, something like that. You'll find it pretty easily. So they break it down. It's really great if you've kind of done a bunch of diets and find a lot of yo-yoing. But we're really trying to focus on learning to stop when we're comfortably full or comfortably satiated. Hey, kitty. And eating when we're actually feeling hunger. So I think a lot of times when we are living busy lifestyles, it's like, all right, it's 9 o'clock, gonna have something to eat, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever it is. What are these cues that are driving us? And again, that kind of goes back to putting on your detective cap and being like, all right, what is the cue right here? And keeping a journal is a really great way to help you slow down. I like to think about intuitive eating when we're rebuilding the skill or learning this new skill, a lot like if you go into the gym and you're learning how to squat and they're like, all right, you're gonna make sure your feet are flat and your butt's back and you're okay, we're going down and then we're going back up. And then as you build up this skill and you understand the process, you can start to do it quicker, you can start to add weight, you can be more effective in your eating or in your habits. So coming back to a beginner's mindset, and really, if you want to make a big change, going all in, like write down your feelings around it, write down, how full you are afterwards, how hungry you are to start. And it's a really great way just to come back to the basics and learn to trust your body to guide you and what to eat, when to eat, and how much to eat. Any questions so far? We're all doing great here. Cool. So we really want to work with the body. Your health should not be a 30-day challenge. It's a journey. You know, it's kind of nice to think about, even if you know everything in the book, you still have to get up and do the actions. So who might intuitive eating not be for, you think?
People that are sick in the hospital that
Yeah.
don't have any cues, people that are,
Yeah, so people are sick in the hospital, maybe you might be on medication that can alter your hunger or satiation, so that's something to take into consideration. If you are struggling with an eating disorder, and again, like you said, you might not be able to perceive those cues, or maybe you've overrid them for so long that it's going to take time to get back in touch with it. So, or maybe you're an athlete and you're just hungry all the time. It can take time to get back in touch with these cues. And so that might look like we set up a schedule and you're checking in with your body periodically, whether you need food or not. You're just like, all right, it's, 2 o'clock. It's my time to check in with my body and just see how it's feeling. How's it doing? And getting back in touch with that. And that's where working with a professional can be helpful, like myself, and building up some different protocols to better understand your body and have some strategy with it.
actually, I have a good example of my son's 25 and he said, Mom, I'm so messed up with eating because you put me on Ritalin when I was little because he has ADD. And he says he can't eat right now. He can't eat. He doesn't know when he's hungry. He has no idea. And I'm probably on the spectrum too with ADHD. And it's almost like you get distracted and you don't eat. And then all of a sudden you're ravenous. And it's really hard sometimes when your mental distraction takes you away from eating normal and paying attention to your cues. Basically, self-regulation is off.
Yeah. This world is pretty much designed to capture your attention, so it's pretty good at it too. Lot of minds and money going into capturing our attention these days. So I think that's where, like you mentioned earlier, having a time when you're eating completely undistracted. So there's no phones, there's no reading, there's no sitting in front of your TV or computer. You're not driving. I mean, we're all guilty of it. But it's okay. Let's make a point to sit down at the dinner table. All right, I have my 3 p.m. snack every day. Like, let's sit down, kind of check in, have a glass of water, and then if you're hungry, have that snack. So setting aside that time to really check in and be undistracted, or even just turning off the notifications on your phone can be a super simple way to start to declutter your mind. I'm reading the Magic Art of Tidying Up. It's kind of an old school book, but I was like, I'm just gonna read this. And it's kind of funny, like when we declutter things in our lives, how it can help to add clarity. And so I think that's one of the reasons why I really appreciate meditation, although sometimes it's like painful to do. It can be like so beneficial in retraining your mind just to not chase after those thoughts that are coming in and to just focus on what you're doing in this present moment. And so if you guys are up for it, I'd like to walk you through a little guided meditation today. And yeah, would you guys like to?
Sure.
Cool. So if you would, please make yourself comfortable, either sitting or laying on the floor in a quiet place where you won't be disturbed. And once you're ready, we'll go ahead and get started. So go ahead and take 10 big, deep breaths. So starting in your belly, breathing through your nose, exhaling through your mouth. And you can keep your eyes open, you can close your eyes during this time, but we're just focusing on 10 deep breaths. So breathing in for 4, and then breathing out for 4. And so while you're doing that, see if you can notice how the breath feels as it flows through your nose. Can you feel the transition from the breath coming in to when it starts to exit? And with the out breath, letting all the air in your lungs to be released. So just big, deep exhales through the mouth. You can even open up your mouth and stick out your tongue like a lion. If you'd like to relax further, it's going to help to relax your jaw and your neck, possibly even your shoulders. And then with each breath, releasing any tension and breathing in new, fresh air. This practice is naturally alkalizing the body and stimulating your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your calming and relaxation one. And after the 10th breath, if you have not done so already, go ahead and close your eyes and let your breathing return to normal. Don't try to alter it. Just breathing as you normally would. And as you do that, take a moment to settle into your body. Feel where your body is in contact with the chair or the floor. Just noticing here with a curious mindset. Let your inner child's imagination explore these sensations free of judgment. Bringing your attention to your feet, take note of any sensations you're feeling. There is not a right or wrong, good or bad. You're a detective and are simply taking notes of how your body is feeling in this moment. Starting from your toes, slowly scan up your feet and calves as if your body is filling with a golden liquid. As you move up the body, notice any areas of tension, pain, strength, or relaxation. Just inching your way up. Up past the knees. Slowly filling the body up. Do you notice any tightness or emotion being held in your hips, in the stomach? Or ribs or chest? Throat or jaw? And up to the brow line. Now bringing your body back to your internal sensations. See if you can notice your heart beating. Do you feel it in your chest, in your ears, in your fingertips? Where do you feel your heart beating? And on the next inhale, filling up as much as you can, filling up like you're filling up a balloon all the way to the tippy top, and then hold it. And now release all the air, filling the body, the weight on the floor, weight in your chair, coming back to the sensations of your body, the smell of the room, temperature of the air. And when you're ready, you can go ahead and open your eyes and come back to this webinar. All right, how do you guys feel? Okay, cool. So I picked that one out of a couple different modalities you can do with meditation because it works on kind of checking in with your body and how it's feeling. The idea is to just kind of like, all right, body, like, are you tired today? Are you, tight? You need some stretching. And it makes you tap into those physical sensations. I also like the concept of checking in with your heartbeat, especially if you find that you're rushing around throughout the day. It's a good one to kind of come back to before you sit down for a meal and just be like, oh, okay, like, can I hear my heart right now? And it kind of gives you a bit of a pause in your day to be like, instead of, going for a snack or a meal or whatever, it helps you step away from things and just come back to the body. And I think it's something we all need to be reminded of a lot. And it's a good one. And I think when you do that, you're going to be able to check, understand those cues again, having that detective cap on, and it gives you that space to be able to do so. So that's kind of the main concept behind mindful eating or intuitive eating, is just having that space to step into it. But it's kind of like working out. I'm going to go back to the gym, working out in the gym. If you do squats every day, you're going to get a lot stronger. You're going to be able to do more. You're going to be able to lift more. But if we're doing it kind of sporadically and when we feel like it, you might get results, but it's not going to be as effective as if you find a way to build it into your routine. So I really love the idea of piggybacking new habits on something you're already doing. So for example, instead of doing coffee first thing in the morning, we go for a walk and kind of check in with our bodies in that way. Or like before you go to bed, go and do some meditation and just check in with yourself, see how things are going. A strong morning routine is a beautiful way to really set the tone for how you want to achieve your day. Yeah, how do you guys build mindfulness into your own routines? Because it seems like you guys are all working on your health in a lot of different ways, so you might be able to share something new.
So this actually probably is like me being a little bit guilty, but like I push it a lot in my classrooms. Like we do lots of body scanning because I teach acting. And so pausing before we start, and a lot of my students go, are going just as much as I am, if not more so, with their different activities and stuff, and saying, okay, before we start rehearsal, we're gonna lay down in the dark. And it's really fun when principals walk in and catch me with students laying on the ground. But just trying to continue to pass on, like, hey, this is good to take time and to just be and to just exist without needing to be doing something.
Yeah. Anyone else?
So, that I work on making a plan for meals for the week, just so that there is not a need to make a decision at the end of the day, because that is hard for me.
I love it. Yeah. And it's nice to have that attention ahead of time. So it's easy to kind of follow through with things. I know when there's nothing in the fridge, I start rummaging around in the pantry, and it's not always a great dinner. So yeah, I feel you there. I think when things start to go sideways a bit, I start to cook. Even if I've already had dinner or whatever, I'm just like, all right, I'm just going to start cooking, because I know this isn't where we need to go. And having good meals on hand keeps me from getting hangry, and it keeps things in check. So I like your meal planning perspective there. Rebecca, do you have anything to share? Oh, you're on mute.
I agree with you. I just have to make sure I have things on hand, because we are really people that don't think, oh, what can we order? Where can we go out? We always make something.
Mhm.
So the bottom of the very, I would say the go-to, if there's really nothing fresh and I haven't been to the grocery store, is like, oh, we have a box of pasta and sauce, and we can figure out a salad. But it's like, that's like the low of the low, and it's okay. It's not the worst thing, but staying ahead of the shopping and being prepared and keeping your pantry stocked with fresh things.
Yeah,
Important.
it is important. That's for sure. Laura?
Hi. I definitely am a morning person, so I like to get up earlier, much earlier than I have to actually start to go on with my day. So I have my morning coffee and I usually do my workout, and but I do actually like to have the coffee, and I just sit in bed and I don't get up yet. And I don't know, I don't necessarily look at my phone or anything right at that point. I just kind of like wake up, and just have like quiet time.
Mhm.
And then I'll get up like a good hour before I really have to be up. I don't know. It's just it is, and I just think about maybe my day, or it's like maybe part of my like awake meditation. I don't know. It's not really like relaxing meditation. It's more like organizing, I guess.
Mhm.
But just like a review of what I have going on that day, and just kind of be for a little bit and not like shake myself awake too fast. Even though I'm a morning person, I can do that, but I just like the morning. I like the light, as it comes in, because right now it's light early and it's dark later. So I think
Yeah.
maybe I'm just enjoying that time too with the sun.
Like that. Yeah, and I think mindfulness doesn't always have to be like meditation or journaling. Like, you can find it in other aspects of your life too. But I think it's like being okay with stepping away from the demands of life, and just kind of spending some time with yourself. I think sometimes it's very uncomfortable for people to do. They're a little scared to be in a room by themselves, but I think it's a good practice to an extent. There's like spectrums of that for sure. I mean, if you stayed in a room long enough, you'd be in an insane asylum, but maybe don't need to go that far. But it's a good way to get to know yourself for sure. Well, that was kind of like the majority of what I wanted to cover today. And so for Rebecca and Brittany, you may not know, I do some group coaching. And the programs are similar to this, where we'll do a topic of conversation, and then we'll do accountability with it, or just share and learn from each other. I think at the end of the day, I try to be as well educated as I can be and experienced, but sometimes Laura or Stephanie can bring some really valuable things to the table in their experiences in their career or their life, that can help the group as a whole overcome challenges. So I think that group coaching is really neat. What I like is it builds a strong community of individuals, and it keeps that conversation in your life. So typically we would meet every week, and I'm always taking suggestions on how to improve the programs, but I'll offer you some meal plans so you guys can have recipes to guide your nutrition off of and streamline that aspect of your life. But it's been fun. I don't know, Stephanie or Laura, do you guys have anything to add about the programs?
They have been really helpful in just keeping my mind interested in trying to make some good choices.
Love it. Yeah, you've been through a few injuries, so moving through that.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely keeps it focused, and kind of that accountability that you probably have to report on your progress that week. And you don't want to make stuff up because, that's not cool. You want to, do your best effort, and it's nice to try. And I've learned a lot. And I've definitely changed a lot of what I'm eating. So very happy about that.
Yeah, I try to make the recipes fun. But yeah. So if you guys are interested in signing up, I do have a discount code. If you guys type in December to the group coaching program, it'll get you 25% off until the end of tomorrow. Please feel free to join us. Like I said, today was a smaller class. I am about to take a big exam and fly over to England for a conference, so my mind has been a bit elsewhere. But I wanted to host this because I feel like it's super valuable this time of year, and really any time of year. But here we are. We're living our lives, and we're being mindful about it, and we're showing up and being proactive. And I think that's where a lot of it's about.
Can I ask you one specific question about one thing about the feeling that you might have, like for satiation versus and hunger?
Yeah.
So is there, I know there's like a physical difference when you're dehydrated.
Mhm.
But in the way you're feeling, because I find that I think I'm probably dehydrated more than I'm probably dehydrated when I think I'm hungry, vice versa.
Mhm.
Like how do you determine that? I mean, other than the feeling of it.
I mean, I think that kind of goes back into the reflection of like, have I been going all day and haven't drank anything? I think it's more apparent more on the latter side. Like if your stomach isn't like kind of grumbly, kind of, feeling your energy come down. The energy coming down could be from dehydration as well. I think when people are consuming and it's not hunger, it's more dehydration. There's an easier chance to overconsume. So it is really good to just kind of like remind yourself to drink periodically. Or maybe just if you're unsure, just have a glass of water and then, take a break for 5
How you
minutes.
feel, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
thanks.
But that's a really good question. I think it's, I had one client who used to get afraid of being hungry. So he would eat ahead of time. And so it was kind of, we played around with a little bit of intermittent fasting to just help him ease back into being hungry and like understanding what that spectrum is. There's let's see if I can find it. There's a hunger and satiety scale from that intuitive eating program. Let me pull it up real quick. Where'd you guys go? One second. Okay. So this is one way to look at your hunger. I think of it, I like having a scale because it helps you have an understanding of it being a spectrum. But having some descriptive terms underneath is always helpful. So ravenous, weak and lightheaded, your stomach acid is churning, you may have a headache, you can't concentrate and feel dizzy. This is also kind of a sketchy area to be if you have blood sugar regulation issues. Because we don't want you to go into like diabetic ketoacidosis. That's kind of like worst case scenario. But usually when you're really hungry, it's going to be really easy to overeat. Same as if you're starving, you're irritable. It was pretty funny. The other day we were Christmas shopping and my boyfriend was like, I need to eat some lunch. And I was like, just have a snack here. He's like, no, I'm gonna wait. And so like we start shopping and he's just, I'm like, what do you think of this present for our friend? And he's just like, I'm like, please go eat. You need to go eat. So that's, you know, obviously you'll get hangry and, you know, all that. But I think also having a difficulty concentrating is a really big one. And it kind of comes and goes in waves. Sometimes you get hungry and then it goes away, then it comes back a little bit stronger. But at the end of the day, your body is going to make sure that you consume something, whether it's periodically throughout the day where it's easy for you to digest and utilize all that food, or it's all at once and the body's just like, give me that burger, it's going down. So learning those cues, and it might be something that you want to write out, like what does each stage feel like to you, and make your own numbers in here so you have a better understanding. But ideally you're aware or like mildly hungry when you start to eat. So this way you can tell when you're starting to become satiated or neutral, and you can step away and you're comfortable from the meal. If you're full past the point of satisfaction, you've had your American style of portion when you got to eat, and you are definitely on the full side. Maybe there's a little bit of cake in the background of your mind, but it probably wouldn't be the most comfortable. Stuffed, aching, this is how people like to describe Thanksgiving. I don't like to describe Thanksgiving that way, but you know, sometimes you feel bloated. If you overeat, sometimes you can have gas or burping. You can be tired, sick, nauseous. This is just things have gone a little too far. And maybe you started off over here and you went from 1 to 100 real quick. So trying to stay in this zone so that you're more manageable, and you're starting when you're hungry so that you can, again, notice when you're becoming satiated and comfortably full. And if anything, you can always go back and get something more later on, but trying to stop when you're about 80% full is a really good rule of thumb. We also know in longevity studies that people who eat like a moderate calorie diet can live a little bit longer. So if you can stop when you're 80% full or just slow down in general when you're consuming, it can really help. I'm definitely one who eats fast and likes to be a part of the clean plate club because I had an older brother who would eyeball my food. So it's understanding your habits too. And it's like, all right, like put the fork down, let's chew 30 times, take some deep breaths. All right, how are we doing? All right, we're so hungry, we're gonna go back for some more. So just checking in with your body and being really proactive about that. And again, going back to the beginner's mindset, it's like, you know, write it down if you have to and practice it. And it might be like, okay, I have a slower week this week. I'm just gonna practice being super mindful. Especially if I'm going out to a holiday party, maybe I survey the buffet, pick out what I want, and then sit down and have my meal instead of watching the football game and going over here and munching and doing all these things. So how can you make it a more mindful process when you sit down to eat it? So thank you for asking that question. Good one. Does anyone want to add to that or have any other questions? Rebecca?
Yeah, I get super frustrated because I'm married, and when we eat a meal together every night, my husband eats very, very fast and like puts as big a bite as he can in his mouth, and he finishes his meal in like a tenth of the time that it takes me to eat. But it's hard to eat with people that eat fast, and it's hard to not be influenced by them. And he says, well, I'm just efficient. Like you're not efficient. And you know, he is the same weight as when I met him in 10th grade in high school. So I will say it's just not fair. I'm 6 sizes up and he's the same size as when we met when we were 15 years old. We've been married 32 years. So it's really, really hard to watch people eat fast and eat a lot. And I'm just eating slowly, and you're with them and you have to eat with them because it's family and it's dinner time. And it's hard to like put a screen up and just say, I'm not going to watch him just, you know, eat as much as he can and scoop everything up in the clean plate club. And I don't know, I struggle with it a lot, you know, for many, many years.
Yeah. It is challenging because I mean, like women's bodies change a lot. Like they're pretty crazy. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else? No. Yeah, I wish I could give you some insight to that. I can't say I've had kids. But I want to think about that. Think about it.
To add to that, like families, it's amazing when you bring two people together, when they, you know, if you get married and you have a partner and you raise kids. My family grew up with family style meals where the food was on the table in a bowl, and you took what you wanted. And if you wanted more, you could have more, but you didn't have to finish it. There was never a clean plate club. And my husband's family grew up that everything was put on the plate ahead of time in the portions that you didn't have any choice on. That was just how much you were served, and you had to eat it. You had to eat everything. So it was really a struggle to come at a marriage and raising 3 children with 2 different eating styles. The take what you want, stop when you're full, versus here's your portion that's predetermined and you eat everything on your plate. And we've struggled with it for 28 years. I have a 20-year-old son, and we had to raise kids, and we had to figure out how are we going to teach them to eat. And my version won out, which was good. The serve what you want, eat what you want, don't finish it if you're full.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a hard struggle that I think people have these habits when they're children. They don't ask for it. That's what they were given.
Yeah. If only we.
Sorry, go ahead, Eleanor.
Go ahead, Brittany.
So my husband and I fight with that too. Like we've got an 8-year-old, an almost 7-year-old, and a 4-year-old. and I'm not gonna make them finish their plates. Like, and he'll get really frustrated. And he's like, well, you're not backing me up. I'm like, because I don't believe in what you're asking them to do. Like, you gave our 4-year-old the same amount of food that I put on my plate. Like, I'm not eating all of this. I'm not going to expect her to eat all of that as well and like get her all confused. Like, she'll eat what she wants to eat. And if she's hungry, she can come back and have some more, but I'm not forcing her to do that.
So I have an 11-year-old, and our rule of thumb was that she had to, and it was actually the rule in our house too. You have to try 2 tablespoons of each food that's on the plate if it's new, to make sure that you give it a chance. And we didn't do it by tablespoons, but we told her a number of bites she had to try just before she could say no thank you. And then after you've tried that many bites, you can decide to say no thank you to the food for the rest of the meal. And that has helped, because that number kind of grew as she got older, so that she gave things a better try the older she got. But it helped because it gave us at least a baseline.
Sounds like we got some wisdom in the room. I'm over here taking notes. Yeah, I think when we were over at Thanksgiving, there was like 10 kids in the house and 10 adults. So it's very interesting to see all the like micro family dynamics and like who fed their kids what and how they approached it. And another one of the women in the family is also a dietitian, and she does a lot of intuitive eating with her kids. And one of her boys like barely had a bite at Thanksgiving, and someone's like, you need to eat your food. And she's like, nope, my kids eat what they want when they want, and I'm not going to tell them how to do it. So there's definitely a lot of different ways to skin a cat. The newest edition of that intuitive eating book does have education on how to work with kids. I can't say I've read it, but that might be of interest to you. Definitely the letting your kids choose what to eat, when to eat, has been pushed in the research from my understanding. But again, my knowledge of children is pretty small right now. Yeah, that's why we do these groups, so you guys can share. Anything else that anyone wants to share, talk about? Anything that's popped up that you're going through? Any successes? Laura, how's your rowing challenge going? I'm gonna call you out. Good?
It's good. Yeah, it's from December 1st to December 31st. Or is this a 31-day month? And just doing 100,000 meters on my rowing machine. And I have enlisted like 6 of my friends to do this with me.
Yes.
I should have sent it to Stephanie.
Safety in numbers.
Yeah, it's some like CrossFit group came up with this thing. It's 100kmc.com several years ago in their gym, and then it just kind of spread, and they do it for charity, and it was $10 for Carry the Load was one of those charities, and you get a sticker or something, I don't know. But it's just like a great way to, and everybody on you set up your little team, and everybody in my team is like sending each other notes. They don't necessarily know each other, some do, and then I could see in our little group, I know some of them are also like competitive, so I'm sure they're like, oh, I can't let her have more than me, but it's good. And then some people like can get 100,000 K in one day. It's like they're just like crazy.
They're on it while they're doing their desk work.
Yeah, I have no idea. They're just like stupid, crazy people. I'm sorry. I don't want to say anybody's stupid, but it's just crazy.
It's kind of crazy what your body can do. Like, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
ultra marathoners, big wave surfers, just a body.
Yeah, I had a friend, one of my coworkers was like an ultra marathoner. Like every weekend he was doing these events somewhere, and it was interesting to watch. They wrote an article on him at the local paper.
Really.
It was crazy. It was different. I loved it.
My almost 7-year-old daughter has got a marathon medal in her room because she did a marathon with me when she was 22 weeks, like in my tummy. And I wasn't going to stop training because I'd already paid for the race. I wasn't going to not do the race. And so I just like power waddled the whole course and like and drank water the entire time, used every single porta potty and a couple ditches along the way. And then I crossed the finish line and like, we have 2 medals for you. Like you have to have one and then one for your daughter.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's
That's
awesome.
great. Love it.
My good news is that I graduated from physical therapy this week for the first
Yay.
time in months of physical therapy. So that ankle's better, and the other foot needed a cortisone shot a week later or a week before that. So I'll get there. I tried to row last Sunday, which was 2 days after my cortisone shot. And then when I went to physical therapy this week, they're like, you probably should have waited longer.
Aw.
So that ended up ending my week pretty much.
It'd be good for your winter break.
Yeah, maybe by winter break, I'll be actually feeling like I can move again.
Yeah. Last but not least, I know some of you guys expressed wanting to focus, have a focus on weight loss. So one of the recent modules that I was going through was making weight for wrestling or combat sports, and I know none of you guys are wrestling. But it was kind of interesting. And so there's a lot of repercussions of rapid weight loss. And so that would be in this like 1 week time frame where an athlete was trying to quickly lose that weight, as opposed to slow and steady weight loss down to their goal weight, which is much safer and more effective. And you can see even their rebound was much slower when they were actually trying to regain weight, as opposed to this one has a drastic come down and a drastic come back. And so, so sometimes I hesitate to like make things about losing weight, but I really like to have people focus on the actions that they're taking every day. Instead of letting the scale dictate things, although it's an important measure. It's important to be comfortable in your body. It's important to be feeling good. So as you're kind of going along in the next month or so and you know, working on mindful eating, exercising, you know, getting back in touch with your body, starting to think about what foods feel good in your body and what does it feel like to lose, like let go of weight and feel energized, feel light on your feet. Start to define that and start to find that in your everyday lifestyle. Because I think sometimes we get into these energy realms that's not always serving us and we want to gravitate towards another. And there's a whole other exercise for that, but starting to identify what that feeling feels like when you finish a meal, when you wake up in the morning, how do you want to feel? And how can you take the next step to get there? And so starting to get really in touch with the body and learn what foods are turning the wheel in the right direction for you that way. So, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just think like this past fall has been really rough for me at work. Like I had a really mess last year and then moved into a new position where I'm head coaching. And I have been in rehearsal 4 days a week since August, like nonstop for one show, and then we went straight to another. And how like I mean, the skills climbed back up just because I haven't had time to work out as much as I would like, but I've noticed more like, oh, I'm more tired and I'm creaking out of bed in the morning. Like, and I think more about my body now than I did when it used to just be like, oh no, the number's climbing. Oh no, the number's climbing. It's like, oh no, I'm feeling different. And I don't like that as I get older. So I think that's good to like continue to hopefully keep that mind shift of like, no, remember what it felt like when you were lighter and how much better you did feel when you made time for a workout, and focus on the positive part of that instead of beating myself up because I missed another workout or because I ate like crap again.
And yeah, I think being really aware of the language that you're using and how you're using it is super effective. But also like when you do work out, like how does it make you feel? Like, do you feel accomplished or are you more tired? And maybe that wasn't the best modality that you should have used and you should just get some more sleep. So giving yourself permission to try different things in your lifestyle to see what works for you, because life is very seasonal, and that's why I like teaching with the seasons. And sometimes it's really dark out and you're tired. And there's the athletic side of me that's like, suck it up, buttercup, and go to the gym. And sometimes it's really good. And when you do, you're like, hell yeah, freaking crushed it. And you inspire other people. But if you get back from the gym and you are so tired and you just don't want to do anything else, then it's not the right option for you that day. So understanding what that stress feels like. Is it wiry stress? Is it like a lot of fatigue? Does it energize you? Sometimes just going for a walk or doing some yoga can be a lot better option as you're building your body energy back up to be able to go and do a high intensity workout and challenge the body. But sometimes you have a lot of stress on your body and we don't want to overstress it.
I have one thing I want to just kind of ask everyone's opinion on. My family, while I name myself the Grinch and my family calls me the Grinch, because I find this time of year to be so difficult with just, I mean, we're not going to any parties or anything this year, but I don't like the indulgent, the consuming, the parties, the sweets, the baking, the excess that Christmas brings. And I mean, I do like Christmas. I wish Christmas was 48 hours instead of 2 days instead of 2 months, that I could just have a Christmas Eve or go to church and have a nice family meal on Christmas Day and give my family some presents and then be done. But it's just the overindulgence. I struggle with this all the time, and I don't eat desserts. I don't have a sweet tooth, luckily, but I just don't like the things coming into my house. And then I end up, on December 26th, I open the garbage and I throw everything away. I don't know how people feel about it. The waste, the indulgence, the things that people don't eat the rest of the year. And why do we do this to ourselves and to our families? I don't know how anyone else feels, but I'm a super Grinch.
So I'm also a teacher, and there are baked goods every single day of the year when you're a teacher. So Christmas feels no different to me than any other time of the year. If anything, Christmas feels nicer because it's more intentional what people do bring, and they don't bring something just because they were bored on Tuesday night and didn't want to grade. Like there's actually a reason behind what they brought. So I like it. And I'm also learning a lot since starting to work with Eleanor about just walking by it and not caring so much about picking it up.
Yeah.
And making that okay, or making picking it up okay if that's what I really, really wanted to do. But I don't do it every time. So, and I think when I approach it that way, it's been better this year.
Or trying a piece and then going like
That, yeah, I do a lot of taking a bite and saying that wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, and then I don't need the rest of it.
Yeah.
And I like to bake, so I'm kind of snobby about the way baked goods taste in that respect. So it's easy for me to be like, no, that wasn't as good as I could have done it, and I'm good with throwing that out.
I think that's the best thing about cooking good food yourself is it's like, this is super salty or really sweet and it's just not what I'm looking for. But yeah, I think it's challenging if you keep your house super clean during the year. And then during Christmas time, you get loaded down with desserts in every crack and crevice of the house. Yeah, it's going to be really hard to pass it up. And so it's like either you work as a family to say, hey, like, let's try and not have this in the house or like out all the time. I'm a big fan of out of sight, out of mind, even though sometimes if you put it in the very top cabinet, you know, behind all the things, you still get up there and go find it.
I
Yeah.
noticed this year that because we've been doing a lot of better clean eating and we don't have, you know, a lot of sugar or much at all sugar laden things. You know, if we have snacks, it's usually like nuts or like corn chips or even fruit, you know, stuff like that. And I noticed that at the beginning, right before maybe Thanksgiving, people started sending us stuff and giving us things. And I was just like, we don't even have this, but you know, it was there and it sat on the counter and we picked at it. And I was just like, we don't do this anymore. It was so weird, but it wasn't us. Like it just showed up. You know, my coworker and my boyfriend have this love of marzipan. So sometimes she just ships him like a whole box of marzipan candy. And like, you know, there's always other stuff in there. And then like my mom, of all people, because she's always saying, you shouldn't have all those cookies or whatever. You know, my mother's very critical about eating in general, but like, so she sends over or she just drops off like 3 bags of biscotti, you know, like who needs that? You know, like this is not like things we don't have anymore here. And it was really odd and frustrating. I mean, I still ate it. I didn't eat it all in one sitting, but you know, it was there for a couple weeks. But like that just like then that I felt like restarted the sugar taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
And then you start looking for it again, you know, and it just starts down this slippery slope, you know,
Mhm.
and you have to detox again, you know.
Yeah, I do think there's kind of like the body will seek it more. One thing I do think is really valuable, and I've noticed kind of things shift in my life as I've become very gung-ho about eating healthy, or at least like trying to set an example with myself, whether it's intentional or not. Like the Thanksgiving meals and the holiday meals have gotten a lot more wholesome. And I think it's just like, you know, if you know you're going to a party, show up with something that is going to, one, taste really good to you, be healthy, and knock their socks off. And so they're like, wow, this is really tasty. How did you make this? It's so good. And so that kind of inspires them to eat really well. And maybe it looks like you bring a really healthy dessert, or a main dish. But yeah, that sounds like out of sight, out of mind. You know, pick at it if you want it, and then put it away, or knock their socks off.
I
Brittany?
try, Rebecca, I don't know where you work, but like I'm in a school as well. And so I try to be intentional then with my gift giving that I'm not giving the same thing. So like, oh, like I found some like pens that write super nice. So instead of giving all my teacher friends and my work wives a plate of cookies, like they get a cool pen and a stack of fun post-it notes, or, you know, some different gifts that aren't food, because I know I don't want that. And so I'm not going to give a gift that I don't want either. So I try to steer clear of that as well.
Yeah, I don't give a lot of food, but I do make a homemade hot chocolate mix, and I do tend to give that out at Christmas time because it's just one of those things that you only have it at Christmas time. But yeah, I don't give a lot of food gifts.
I actually gave a full of beans soup recipe, and it was like dried beans, and you put all the beans, it's in a mason jar, and you layer it with all the dried beans, and then you give a recipe for the soup that you make with all the beans. So it's kind of like you've seen those cookie mixes in a mason jar, but it's a full of bean soup, and it was actually really healthy and, you know, very good. I don't know if people made it, but I did that one year. I'm a teacher also, and teaching, and then my sister and my daughter are a nurse, and I will tell you, teaching and nursing are two of the hardest professions to manage your food intake, because there's so much coming in, there's so much available, there's your time during the day is so challenged to sit and eat. And I wouldn't take a lunch. I would let my kids come in my room during lunchtime and work. I was a visual arts high school teacher, and I was like, I never took a lunch because my kids always said, can I come in during lunch? And I said, sure. So I didn't eat. And then 3:30 comes around and I would eat anything because I was starving. So teaching and nursing are really challenging jobs for managing your diet, your intake on a regular basis. They're really hard.
Yeah.
They are hard jobs to manage.
And I think it's a lot of like with people who have really stacked careers like that, is like setting boundaries and like taking time. Like I work with a surgeon, and he's like, yeah, I'll like go into my car and meditate if I'm getting really worked up, and not use food, and just having some different strategies like that. So yeah, I think we all have challenges, and finding different ways to overcome it and remind ourselves why we're doing it, you know, and in different ways to do it is important. So I hope you guys learned something new today and are able to apply it. Again, I highly recommend finding a way to piggyback something like this onto a habit or a routine that you're doing already to really make the most of it. But thank you all for coming out and sharing. This was a really beautiful group, and I'm glad I kept it small. So I think this is nice and intimate for us. Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck with everything, and Elle, good luck on your exam, whatever you're taking.
Almost done.
All right, good
Bye.
luck.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good to see you.
Good to see
Happy
you.
holidays.